my name's Shane, and I've got a 1981 BMW 3 Series E21. It's one of the first 3 Series, but Alpina decided to bring out the C1 2.3 version. As far as I know, there was 462 of the cars that were made. The UK models were TWR cars, Tom Wilkshire Racing. I picked this car up probably about 19 years ago. I paid 800 quid for the car. The guy just wanted to get rid of it, seeing it was sat in his garage for 13 years. It was his uncle's car, and unfortunately he passed away, and he just wanted to sell the car on. The condition of it, the engine was laying on the floor and the transmission, and it had no interior, so I think he was wrecking the car at some point, and then changed his mind and wanted to sell the car complete. There was a mouse living in the dashboard. Yeah, that was fun. It was chewed all the wiring loom up, and had to replace all that. It had one wheel on it, and the front splitter was broken. Brought the car back up to where I live, and just set about by searching parts, doing research on what the car should have. I mean, obviously, okay, it's got the aftermarket headlights, and the indicators are aftermarket, but everybody has their own taste. Maybe it's not everybody's taste, but that's what I did to it. Decided I wanted to use it as a track car at Santspod. I had a roll cage in it, and a welded diff and a set of slicks on the back, and I used to take it down there with an M20 4-barrel Solex carburetted engine. Not very powerful, probably about 122 brake horse from standard cams, standard internals, and I used to give it a dry shot of nitrous oxide. The engine held out quite well, but it blew a hole through one of the valves. But it was quite surprising how strong these M20 engines can be. Also, the M10s and M30s are all like prehistoric straight sixes of the BMWs, but they can take some abuse. But after the days of taking it down the track, I've decided to restore the car, take it down to the bare shell, set my ways about trying to find a limited slip differential for it for the E21. I can't remember I think it's 3.45 ratio, I think they are on them. Really hard to find. I think they use the same differential on the 200s as well, with the little M10 engines. But then I got the differential, and put my own bearings in it, and put a new sleeve in it, and etc. as you do when you restore them. I won't go into that in detail, I'm here forever. But then the M20 engine, I got an engine from E21 525i. They run, I think, similar, about 125, 122 brake horse, with a automatic gearbox which only allows them to rev up to about 4,000 revs per minute, so they do actually get an easier life. So I got the E30 early chrome bumper version, 325i pistons with the 885 big ported cylinder head. I took the valves out, reseated all the valves, cut the valve guides back, gas flowed the cylinder head, but I didn't pressure test it or like that or skim it, but I did the gas flow work myself, and assembled the cylinder head back myself. It's got a Schritt cam, Kent cam vernier pulley. The bottom end is the ETA block, the ETA crank. Alpina on the E30 C1 2.7s, they use the steel crank out of the E30 M21 engines. I was trying to find an M21 diesel engine, but they're quite scarce to come by and they don't sell them in this country. So I went to the next best thing, and that was the ETA engine out of the E28. Used 2 litre conrods, E30 325i pistons, the 885 cylinder head, Schritt cam, and kink cam vernier pulley. It's got a six branch tubular outlet manifold with a custom inlet manifold with the triple 45 DCOEs. The engine now produces about 211 brake horse, which is quite good for 70s technology with the old triple DCOEs. It's quite responsive, free revving, with the flywheel and crank being balanced and lightened. But it's still originally running on its own, the distributor, which I had a bit of fun with in the last few weeks, trying to find another one of them as well. Brakes wise, it has got the Volvo 240 series 4-pot calipers on the front with the drilled and grooved discs, and the green stuff brake pads on the rear. It's got the E30 325i rear calipers with the drilled and grooved discs, and also green stuff pads. Suspension wise, it's got the Sprax adjustable dampers with the Sprax springs, 60mm front, 40 rear, polybushed rear subframe with the seats, like I mentioned, because it didn't have any interior. I couldn't find the original seats for it, so I went with the E28 Recaro seats. I do have another set of E21 parts, E21 Recaro seats, but I ended up going for the E24 6 Series seats because they just seem to hug you a little bit more on the bolsters. I had it all retrimmed in beige leather with black piping. I've also got the original Alpina black leather steering wheel for it, but I went for a Momo steering wheel with the polished wood, so it matched the gear knob. Paintwork wise, when I bought the car, the wings were a bit rusty, and the boot lid, where they always prone to rot away on behind the rubber spoiler. Managed to get my hands on another boot lid and the Alpina boot spoiler with the part number on there, so to prove that it was a genuine part. And I've repainted the whole car myself in the Alpine 2-pack paint. It must have took me about 4 or 5 years to try and get all the parts for the car, like the Alpina wheels, because it only had the one with it when I bought the car. Originally the car's meant to have the J6 fronts and 7 rears, the 195s at the front and 205s at the rear. But I just put all J7s on with a diamond cut lip on it. I may not go down well with a lot of original BMW enthusiasts, but that's your own taste again. Yeah, it's got the colour-coded door mirrors, the colour-coded sills, E12 chrome door handles, the E30 headlights with the brackets made up to make them fit, because the E30s are more squared off at the front and the E21s are more sharp looking, pointed front end. Purpose of the car was, at the time, I wanted to get involved in a lot of car shows. I wanted to try and achieve things, do things differently with cars and get recognised in the car scene. If I can strip a car and put it back together, well, okay, let's try and go different ways and see if we can modify it, make it more, I'd probably say, desirable than the manufacturers put it. No, I'm not going against the manufacturers, of course, but yeah. I got involved in cars myself. I was self-taught. I always got told to go to college. You won't get in nowhere in life if you don't have the qualifications. But 16 years later, I haven't bothered with qualifications. The car sort of proves and talks itself what I'm capable of doing. So I ended up not struggling with the qualifications, just word of mouth of putting cars together, mix matchings, modifying, trial and error, and see how it works. I mostly got involved with the blueprinting of building engines, so that went down quite well with the guys who used to build racing engines. Me getting involved with cars, I like pulling stuff in bits and seeing if I can put it back together and see if it goes bang. I mean, yeah, no, didn't do that with the blueprint engines obviously, but yeah, with other things I used to mess about with. Been involved with modifying with all different sorts of mix and models of cars, like the Vauxhalls, and putting C20 LET turbo engines in little Corsas and Omega V6 engines in Corsas, makes them very nose heavy, but that's another story. Shows, I've lost track of what shows I've been to. I used to go to a lot of like Santa Pod and Gaydon and all the BMW shows, but hopefully we should start going to them again. Oh, Fitted UK at Manchester. Yeah, well, I didn't even enter it into the show. I didn't even enter it into the show and shine. I was just sat there and thought, right, clean all the car, make it look sort of decent. And I was sat at the back of the car, and then they said, oh, like original best wheels. And yeah, that was quite a good day at the Fitted. Hope to be getting to a few more of them, or a few more BMW classic German shows, or trying to find the parts for the car was one of the biggest difficulties, especially the wheels and genuine front splitter and the back splitter. But as time's gone on now, since I've owned the car for so long, I've noticed that parts are getting more and more scarce to find. Like the bumpers, you can't get the bumpers anymore for them, and if you find the parts and you want to buy them, you're paying quite big money for them. And then, you know, like the earlier ones with the kidney grills were slightly different because the front panel was different. And I think it's the later ones that are harder to find because they didn't make them as long. No, I didn't think I'd get to this level with it. I certainly didn't think I'd have it this long. Special wise, I'd say, okay, it's got a bit of an attitude on the back end, likes to step out, and like what most famous BMWs tend to do the same thing. But and then going to the shows and that, with my dad wanting to come to the shows, I used to let him drive it a lot. And then unfortunately, you know how life goes, he passed away, and it's got a bit of a sentimental value now with him when he used to drive it. So I think that's a specialness thing of owning it still, just to keep the car, to keep the memories. But it's always been my car, but just with him driving it was more, well, I could say it was more his car, and then I used to just work on it for him. But yeah, top speeds, they do about 130 mile an hour. You could push it a little bit more, but into 70s technology and that, and it does get a bit worrying. At high speeds it feels like you're doing 300 miles an hour in the older cars. What you would be doing if you were doing it in a modern one. Well, I have done it again, and I have done it differently, but I just unfortunately didn't keep them project. I did turbo one, an SE323i M20, kept the original 2.3 engine and I fitted low compression pistons on it and used the stainless steel outlet manifold. That was interesting with the brake servo in the way. It had a little T25 Garrett turbo on it. It did about 230 brake horse. I just didn't keep that going because I just ran out of money, as sometimes people do. I tend to forget how special it is to drive a classic car when you haven't driven it for so long, and then you go out and you get people waving at you and patting their horn at you and taking pictures, and it's quite rewarding when you've built a classic car up and people take notice of it. It's like payment towards what you've done. That's all what I think everybody does in the car scene anyway, and that's what they live for, is to build a car and get recognised for it. And that's what it's all about, I think, with everybody.